Okay, we're going to talk about the first right of purchase in this video. This is basically the agreement between you, the seller, and the potential buyer. All right, let's start from the top. I'm going to run through this real quick. This is 3 pages, and I'm going to go as fast as I can. All right, owner name, grantor, that's you. Remember that word grantor, that's you. Grants tenant buyer name, here and after called the grantee. A first right of purchase as follows. Number 1, and we're going to go from 1 all the way down to 10. Number 1, property, the property address. That's where this goes. 2, the term. This agreement shall provide grantee with the first right of purchase as long as the grantee is current with all obligations as it has to the grantor. The grantee has the right to require the grantor to offer the property for sale at any time for up to a period of 3 years after the executed date of this contract. The term is 3 years on this agreement. I always set it at 3 years because it usually takes about 3 years for somebody to get their credit up to par to qualify for a loan. It should only take a couple of months really, but I stretch it out to 3 years, and that way that'll give you the most amount of monthly payments coming in the door for positive cash flow. Number 3, the price. The grantee shall have the right to purchase the property for. Now this is broken down into 3 years terms. The first year, which is the first 12 months, you wanted, say, $150,000 for the property. What this states is $150,000 within the first 12 months with a credit toward purchase price in the amount of $5,000. This $5,000 is the fee that I get from the tenant buyer for setting this up and helping them locate this property, your property. That's my fee. That's how I work. Now, the second year, from month 13 to 24, you see the price goes up by $7,500. This is due to property values going up, the 5% increase in property values and taxes and inflation. And the third year, from months 25 through 36, it goes up again another 5%. From the 157 goes up to 165. Now, you can do it like this, or you can keep it all at 150,000 each year, so as the tenant buyer won't be so shocked when they see this, because it might just kind of kill the deal if they see this number right here, this price going up. So I recommend just sticking with the $150,000 or whatever you're selling your property for. 4, consideration. Consideration is the deposit. In exchange for the right, the grantee has paid grantor $5,000 and other valuable consideration. This consideration money is non-refundable under any circumstances, non-refundable. 5, at time of exercise of first right. Let's read this. Notice, this first right of purchase shall be exercised by the buyer's written notice of grant to grantor of buyer's intention to purchase. The notice shall be deemed received when personally delivered, transmitted by fax, sent express courier, or sent by U.S. mail, postage prepaid, certified, and return receipt requested, addressed to grantor to the designated agent of grantor, as the case may be, at the address set forth in the first right of purchase of any party prior to the expiration of the first right of purchase period. This is basically saying getting ready to exercise the first right to get this thing started, get the process going. Let's look at the first one. A, survey. The buyer shall receive a surveyor location report, which is a survey where corner markers are not set at buyer's expense. The survey shall be received prior to closing new loan after first right is exercised and certified as of a current date. Be reasonably satisfactory to buyer. Show the location of all improvements and its easements, and show the flood zone designated of the property. So the buyer is at the buyer's expense, and they will request this when they're getting ready to get the new loan. This is during the closing. Title approval. Prior to closing, buyer shall be furnished a commitment for title insurance in the amount of purchase price. Any encumbrances or defects in title must be removed, and the seller, must convey title free and clear of any encumbrances and title defects, with the exception of any mortgage assumed by buyer and any restrictions and easement of record. Basically, you're trying to sell a property. This house needs to be free and clear of any liens or anything like that. So just make sure everything's clean, clear, and ready to go. Don't try to, sell something that there's something wrong with the property. Next, taxes. All taxes assessed for any prior calendar year and remaining unpaid shall be paid by seller. And all taxes assessed for the current calendar year shall be prorated between seller and buyer on a calendar year basis as of the day immediately prior to the closing date. What this basically is saying is the taxes need to be paid. You need to take care of the taxes for the current year that are unpaid, and after that, the buyer is responsible for paying the taxes on the property as do fit for this agreement. Or if you want to pay it, you can come up with another agreement, and the two of you can sign that. If they don't want to pay that, you can work something out. But that is outside of the scope of this agreement. Warning: the succeeding year tax bill for recently constructed homes or following reassessment periods may greatly exceed the last tax bill available to the closing agent. All right, moving on. 6. Seller's right to mortgage real estate. Grantor: you, the grantor, shall have the right, without the grantee's consent, to encumber the real estate with a mortgage. The balance due in respect of any such mortgage at no time shall exceed the unpaid balance of the grantee's first right of purchase, current purchase price. If grantor encumbers the real estate by a mortgage, or the real estate is on the date of the agreement already so encumbered, and grantor, you, the grantor, defaults thereunder, the grantee shall have the right to cure such default and to deduct the cost thereof from the next payment. Well, basically what this is saying, if you the seller, if you default paying the mortgage, they're paying you a monthly payment, and if you don't pay the mortgage, and you know what happens when you don't pay a mortgage, pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, if that happens, the grantee, the tenant buyer, they have an opportunity to take care of that. They can cure the default, and they will deduct that cost from the next payment or payments due under the contract. So they can cure it or you can cure it. But at the end of the day, pay the mortgage to avoid any situation like this. Number 7, default and right of reinstatement. These are the events that would trigger a default and suspend or void all rights of this first right of purchase of grantee hereunder. A. If the grantee defaults on a lease between the grantor and the grantee, all beneficial rights for the grantee are suspended. The grantee does not have the right or reinstatement until the last day of eviction. B. If the grantee files bankruptcy and uses the bankruptcy in an attempt to change the terms of any agreement with the grantor, the first right of purchase is voided. C. Cost of purchase, refinance, or sale. When this right is exercised by grantee shall pay for all costs. Grantor to pay zero, except as specified in this agreement. So what that's basically saying is if the tenant buyer tries to do something kind of funny, or they try to get it be illegal, or do something unorthodox, this entire agreement, this whole setup will be null and void, and they will have to be evicted. You can evict them. 8. Effective forfeiture. Upon default and forfeiture after proper notice of default and intent to forfeit and failure of the grantee to substantially cure the default, the grantee's equitable right of redemption shall be extinguished. Once again, if they default, they're not paying, they cannot get back into the agreement. Everything is extinguished. The redemption is extinguished. Number 9, right of an assignment. This agreement may not be assigned by the tenant by a grantee without written permission by you, the grantor. It shall bind and inure to the benefit of all the respective heirs, personal representatives, and successors of the parties hereto. Basically, they cannot sublet the property. They cannot go and find somebody else to put into the property and have that person pay them a fee and then they pay you a fee. No, that's not going to happen. That's subletting. Number 10, entire agreement. This agreement represents the entire agreement between the parties regarding the first right of purchase for the property described above and may be amended only by signed agreement between the parties. Right to cancel. The grantee, the buyer grantee may exercise the right to cancel the first right of purchase agreement until midnight of the third business day following execution of the first right of purchase agreement or delivery of a copy of the agreement with the required minimum disclosures, which occurs last. Agreed to this day, month, year, tenant buyer name, date, your name and date. And that is the first right of purchase agreement. And that agreement is between you, the seller, and the tenant buyer. Hope that helps.